One thing with me and bicycles is that I can just never leave them well enough alone. I've always got to be tweaking something on them. This is my Karate Monkey, Purple Nurple. It came as a single speed, it's a 29er. You know, in the winter time, I bought a drivetrain for it. This sucker right here. Big honkin' granny gear. And that thing was great because I had like 3-inch tires on it in the winter time. I've switched back to the 2.4s and back to the single speed. Since spring, I've been riding like this. But when I'm going to town to take packages to the post office and stuff, you know, if we get any wind at all, I've got an 18-mile round trip, and there's some pretty good hills, but they're manageable. But it's when you get a headwind and you're riding into the wind, oh my word. I love single speeds. I still have a single speed. My Kuahara is still set up as a single speed, but I'm gonna try this one again with some gear. So we're gonna go ahead and put that drivetrain back on the bike, and I'm just gonna kind of walk you through this process. It's really, really simple. And again, it's super easy for me because, I mean, I've already measured out my cables, my derailleur's already set up. Basically, I can just bolt this thing on. The way that all the cable routing is on the Karate Monkey, I'll basically just be sticking it, you know, beside these things here. So it makes it really, really easy. It's not gonna be a huge job, but I just wanna change it up a little bit, get a fresh start on this bike, and just see if I'm, you know, if I might be sold on having some gears again. All right, first thing we need to do is obviously remove the wheel. And this is the boost wheel, which is nice. Really solid skookum axle. That's how easy that is. We will need to put a new chain here. Again, I've got the chain already pre-measured out. This is a tool I just recently purchased, Park Tool. What is this? The MLP 1.2, maybe? I don't know, whatever. It's just a chain tool. Makes this job so much easier. I used to just do this with pliers, but didn't always work that great. So definitely a worthwhile tool if you're going to be doing a lot of different work on your bicycles. And again, these chains here, you've got these two links, and you just kind of put them in there. You see there's it's kind of like those things for like hanging things on the wall. Just kind of put it in there like this, and then pull it apart. And then obviously you can use this tool to pull it apart too. So you put this in these outside links here, give it a yank, boom, done. Store it like that. That way you don't lose your parts. All right, now we need to remove our cog. One of the tools we'll be using is this chain whip. This basically just locks around there. It's a 17-tooth cog. And then we need our cassette locking nut remover. I've got a few different sizes. Basically, it's just like a spline socket. Kind of see, this is your locking ring, and then this just fits right inside of there. To loosen that off, we need to hold this. Just kind of put it on there like that. Just like that. But basically this entire kit right here, all these spacers all come off. And then what I like to do is I'll actually put a zip tie right like this and just zip tie this thing together so that I have the correct stack. I mean, it's not hard enough to figure out, but this affects your chain line, and the train line was really great. So I'm just gonna put a zip tie through here. Boom, that way everything stays nice and organized. Because the chances are, I'll be putting this back to a single speed. I don't know, maybe a few days, maybe a few weeks, maybe I'll wait till the winter time before I do it again. But right there, I've got everything in the correct orientation. I can just put it on. It makes for a really, really quick change out, which is important when you're always changing it out. Same thing here. I am using I've got everything zip tied together. And then also when I buy these, I guess if you're gonna leave this alone, that's fine. But since I'm always changing it out, I keep this plastic tube that they come in from with the packaging, and that way I can just keep everything organized. The easy thing about this is that these splines are slightly different. You see you've got a really fat one right there, and that obviously matches up with a really fat gap, an internal spline. So we see right here, this is a fatter spline. You see these ones are thin. I'm gonna come around, we've got one big fat one there. Obviously, that's gonna line up with our big fat one right here. So I've got this WPL bike grease. I like this stuff. Get that at Mountain Equipment Co-op. Just want a really thin little coat on here. I'll even wipe off any excess. Find that big spline again. There it is right there. Line up this big spline. Boom. There's the first little bit. So we've got 3 gears on one carrier, 3 gears on another carrier. Again, just line up our splines. Now we're getting into all these little individual gears and some spacers. So keep your spacers oriented properly, otherwise you'll have an issue with chain clearance. That's kind of the nice thing about these things having that larger spline, is that it's really easy to keep track of them all. There we go. Put our new locking ring on there. And that needs to be 40 Newton meters is what I just did right there. Exactly. Now we're ready to put the wheel back on the bicycle. And the only one thing we want to be careful here is making sure that our disc gets into the calipers. Like that. All right, so we've got our wheel back installed, and what we want to do is we just want to check for even clearance on both sides of the tire, on the seat stays, as well as the chain stays where they come up to the bottom bracket there. So that's basically what we're going to be looking for. Just want to get this nice and centered at the bottom here and at the top. Now with this one's actually a little difficult because we've got this, this chain stay has this clearance gusset here. So it's a little bit more difficult to tell, but usually these, like this chain stay and that chain stay, should be about even. So we'll just kind of eyeball this up, get it centered, and then we can lock the wheel down. Alright, that looks pretty darn good. Tighten her up there. You can always adjust this afterwards too. Okay, so now we're gonna quickly move to the front of the bike, and obviously I need to get my shifters right in front of this. The brake lever, so I'll have to take off this grip. These are the Jones H-bars. It's kind of cool because this is the original H-bar length, and if you prefer that, you can cut them. So they give you a nice line to cut to on both sides so you can get them evenly cut. But I kind of like the wider version. I like that big wide stance of these bars, so I just left mine. Okay, and then we'll adjust all these locations. We can twist these up and down and all around later on. But for now, we just wanted to get that on there. All right, and this is a fairly easy bike for cable routing. Like all of the routing for the cables are on the outside, so that's why I can keep this whole thing intact. I don't have any standoffs in the frame to go between. So the next step of this process is we're just going to mount our derailleur. Again, this is obviously a derailleur designed for an 11-speed drivetrain. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're just going to take some zip ties and kind of loosely clamp our shift cable in here. And the reason we want it loose is I might want to tweak it and adjust it a little bit afterwards, but for now we can just kind of get this roughly sorted. So I'm just going to leave enough slack that I can pull this and move it around as I need to, if I need to. Basically the way these karate monkeys are set up is they've got these tabs, and if you see, this right here is for my rear brake, and if you're just using one, you've got a groove right in the center. And then if you're using two, they've got grooves on either side, so you can kind of keep everything nice and tidy that way. You may notice this tape all over the frame. That's actually Gorilla Tape, clear Gorilla Tape for my frame bag, and that just protects the paint. But what I did make sure when I was installing is I made sure not to cover up these, just because I knew that I'd be switching this around and always forever changing things. So it's nice that I can do that and not have to untape anything. And so we'll just kind of get those pinched in there like that. Again, we're going to leave it loose. And once everything's set up properly, we can suck that nice and tight, and then our cables will be nicely routed. I've got a couple more in the frame to do. So we'll leave all our tabs hanging off of here. Once we've got everything sorted the way we want, we can go ahead and cut them. But now we'll put the chain on. And again, this has the same type of quick link. So just locate that link, squish this together, route our chain through our derailleur. It's funny because when I was a kid, I never had a bike that shifted properly, like ever. I remember the very first time I ever got a new bike that actually shifted properly, I was like, this is crazy. I never knew that they're actually designed to shift. I just thought gears were kind of a novelty that was never ever properly figured out. And then I got my first new bike, and I was just amazed at how incredible it was. All right, so here's something that was a new experience for me on this bike, and that's these single chain rings. This one's 30 tooth, and this is designed to work up to an 11 speed. So you can go up to 11 speed cassette, but
I've never ever seen this before, I never had noticed this before, but these teeth are different thicknesses. So this one here is a thinner tooth, and this is a fatter tooth. And they're designed to work with the different lengths of chain. Obviously, the gap in between these two links is smaller gap than in these two links, and this is designed to work in that way. So if I try to put this skinny link on top of this fat tooth, it doesn't fit on there. It's actually designed to work like this, and that way it helps keep your chain centered and keeps it from falling off. So now we'll put the chain on right here, make sure we get our links engaged properly. Skinny link, skinny tooth. I don't think it goes on any other way. All right, now we'll just bring this chain together. There we go. Your tool, spread them apart. Boom. Chain is installed. Well, for not having to adjust anything, I'm actually really impressed. It's shifting pretty good. And the one thing with this huge granny gear, it's, I don't know, I have a hard time running in the highest gear. I mean, it'll get there. Oh, that's pretty good. I'm pretty impressed. You check out that reduction. I mean, this is like a crawl when you're riding like this. That's good. I'm really impressed with that. Shifted nice. Obviously I had everything dialed in properly before I took it off, and so it was kind of the nice thing with being able to leave the cable intact and everything is that basically it looks like everything has stayed adjusted. I like it. I think now what I'll do is I'll take the bike off the stand, we'll adjust our levers where we want them, and once we get that sorted out exactly how we'd like it to be, then we'll just tighten up these cables and we should be done. We've got our 11-speed drivetrain. Alright, just gonna put some zip ties on these, keep them organized, my OCD have its way. And I think everything is pretty much sorted out. I like the cable routing. Really, we didn't have to change too much of it. And just have a little bit of slack right here I want to take up. So pull a little bit of this. Yeah, there we go. Don't let that too much. Whoa, easy guys. I'll just zip these little ends off. There we go. Got our Karate Monkey back to a 1x11. I love these partial frame bags. Lots of room. But look at that, I love that. Boom, whatever you need. Got your bike lock in here. Strap, so I can strap things to the rack. I always keep my phone and my wallet on this side so I can access it easy. I like that. There's only one thing left to do, and that's give this thing a test ride.